Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Gonna make a couple of videos today. The first one I'm just gonna make about is the news I just learned yesterday, and I wish I would have been paying a little closer attention, of another venue in the Twin Cities having to close. One of the first, if not the first one, that I can literally say permanently is closing due to COVID. I'm wearing their t-shirt called the Black Dog Cafe in Lowertown since 1988, where they formed an odd t-shirt. But a woman named Sarah Rumke, I think she's the manager. She was the manager there. Posted it and stuff like that. They're doing a New Year's. They always do New Year's Eve, a New Year's Eve thing, and then they're doing a closing event on the 15th. This is Saturday night of January 15th. I don't know. I might go. I might not go, just for COVID concerns and crime concerns. I'm not sure I'm going to go, but so I thought, just to sort of talk about, feature my memories about Black Dog Cafe. It's recent, but so how do it really starts, its origins really, from my experience with, it's in downtown St. Paul, Lowertown specifically. Downtown St. Paul is not that large. A lot of metropolitan areas have a downtown that's big, but it's large enough where there are different areas. It's, I don't know what it is, about a 2 to maybe a 4 mile square radius, square mile rather, but I look at it like this. So I like jazz, live jazz, even though the truth be I don't have like a vast knowledge of jazz history in terms of my collection and how much I've listened to, although I listen to jazz. One of the jazz stations in town here I have, especially in the car, Jazz 88 for many years. But Dean McGraw, I've talked about here and there, has long been more or less my favorite musician in Minnesota, at least one of not my favorites, individual musicians. I learned about him about 20 years ago when I was through a friend. He opened up for Scott Henderson at another venue in Minneapolis called the Caboose, and that's the first time I had heard of him. He's just a very eclectic, very highly talented, virtuosic at points, but he can do from jazz to blues to rock music, especially like older classic rock, Jimi Hendrix, Zeppelin, that kind of stuff. Folk, Irish folk. He's just very versatile. He's played like East Indian kind of music, like electric sitar. He's played a lot of. Anyway, and he still to an extent has some form of cancer, I think. But he had cancer, but had gone into remission at one point. I didn't know him at the point he initially was diagnosed. But he's a guitarist, by the way. I was just saying he's a musician. Largely, he's a guitarist. But I knew him. I'd see him live with Courtney Yasmine and some other people, his different bands at many different venues. And one of the places he played frequently was a place called the Artist Quarter, which I, again, also didn't really become familiar with until toward the end of the Artist Quarter's run. The Artist Quarter closed, I think it was 2013 or 2014, which was really sad for me to see as well. But Dean, his cancer came on, unfortunately, kind of aggressively in the late 2000s, and he was basically out of commission for the most part for about 2 years. There were these events at this place called Celtic Junction in St. Paul, where basically they called it Do the Dean. It was like an all-day thing. You had like a few dozen local artists playing a lot of music just in his honor. Not necessarily Dean McGraw covers per se, although what Dean may be best known for is his arrangements of other people's music, but then around 2000, toward the end of 2010, Dean started to get better, and they did a special event at actually the Artist Quarter. But anyway, I actually ended up meeting someone, Ellen Stanley's her name, from KFAI at that event, and I had been gone from KFAI radio, then I went back, and that's where I ended up meeting my wife. So I kind of relate and owe that situation to the whole Dean McGraw thing at the Artist Quarter. But Dean then started playing more again regularly going into 2011. And then I found out, I don't know how long it was after, because that was the end of 2010. It was probably 3 to 6 months later. I found out he was playing at this place called the Black Dog Cafe once a month. It was like a residency. And he did this and I ended up going to see them. And the other thing I loved about Black Dog Cafe was their food, specifically their Cubano sandwich. At that point, it was actually awarded the best Cuban sandwich or maybe the best sandwich in City Pages and a few other publications for a couple of years. So it was really good. It was very like hit the spot, very consistently good, and so he would play there once a month, like the first or second Tuesday of the month, with different drummers. It would just be Dean and him, and some other people. Davu Seru, the last X number of years, it was frequently with him. Occasionally with Eric Gravatt, who's a drummer who played with a lot of people like Weather Report and McCoy Tyner, but who moved here recently. I think his like daughter moved here, went to school here, or something like that. Anyway, so Dean played there, and then it wasn't that long after, it was like 2013, 2014, the Artist Quarter closed, which was really sad. Kind of going back to, there's a venue called the Dakota Jazz Club, which used to be in St. Paul and moved to Minneapolis, which I still appreciate, but I have some mixed feelings about my love and my memories of it from St. Paul, preferably. But regardless, when the Dakota went to Minneapolis, I didn't go there as often as I did previously in St. Paul at Bandana Square. So what was the kind of alternative? I would go to the Artist Quarter when I could, and Dean would play there. And so then the Artist Quarter, and then he started playing at Black Dog Cafe, and the Artist Quarter sadly had to close, and they ended up reopening in the space known as Vous Carré, it's actually, I believe, owned by the Dakota Jazz Club now, but which is fine. It's great. I know Dean has played there, I think, a little bit, but he had that residency for X number of years around the calendar, and so I went like 25, 30 times. The great thing about those shows at the Black Dog Cafe on Tuesday nights, where it was like at 7 o'clock, you'd play till 9. It was 2 hours. There'd be a break. There was no cover charge. You basically paid him tips, and I always tipped him. And I would just have dinner, and then I'd get to talk to Dean between sets. I'd bring my computer, and I put stuff on social media, on Twitter and Facebook about it, and I really liked it. It was the only thing that was challenging was parking sometimes, trying to find a parking space, having to pay a lot of money in parking, and having to get there. And sometimes it was a little more crowded than I preferred. But for the most part, it generally was the right, perfect atmosphere for live. It was jazz mostly. He was doing his Coltrane interpretations and Miles Davis interpretations and, his folk interpretation. He'd play, I don't know, he did he has got a bunch of different groups, Red Planet and they did some covers, so he'd do them. He did an interpretation of the Twin Peaks theme, I believe. Anyway, those are some of the most enjoyable live performances I've ever seen. Like I said, I probably went 30 times, and I don't know the exact number, but I didn't like to go to concerts, especially during the week, late and spend a lot of money. And it was close. It was like it fit every category for the live experience for me to go regularly, and it was like therapy. Sometimes I'd be having some sort of conflict, some bad night, and I'd go see Dean down at Black Dog, and it was perfect. I would see some others like Greg Harrigas and the other country ensemble, and I've seen some other performances there. I went there once or twice just for breakfast to try some of the food. It's right near where the farmers market is, and unfortunately the late Golden's restaurant also. But right down there in Lowertown. But it was great. Now the last few years I haven't gone. Even before COVID, I kind of had scaled back just from convenience, and it was on Tuesday nights. I would be watching some television show, or there was some other shows that were happening I wanted to see. And so I didn't end up going as often, probably in 2018, 2019. But from like 2011 to 2017, I probably went there like close to 25 or 30 times. And it's going to be sad not to have it. They did kind of remodel and redesign it, and I think the recipe, some of the menus changed a bit. And I'll even say the Cubano sandwich, while I did like it the last few times I had it, I know I don't know if I felt like it was quite as good as it had been. I don't know if they changed the recipe or not. I don't know. But I know people still really enjoyed it. And even with whatever they did with it, I would still want to still have it again at some point. And unfortunately, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I don't know if something else will show up there in that space right near where CHS Field and the St. Paul Saints play baseball, minor league baseball. I'm sure things will pop up. When the Triple Rock closed, you have other new venues open. I was sad about the Triple Rock closing, but it's sad that it's a product of COVID, seemingly. In the last few years, again, I haven't obviously gone to a lot of concerts and gone there, but rest in peace, Black Dog Cafe. You were a great resource, especially to see Dean McGraw. Dean will still play live, I'm sure, even with the restrictions. There's a place out in the West Metro in Excelsior I used to go see Dean and Courtney Yasmine. It's all known as the 318, I think it was, the Bean Wine Cafe. Maybe, I was telling my wife, I was saying maybe they would want to go out there at some point. But it's really sad to see. But I still have the memories. There's live recordings and stuff. So maybe we'll reopen at some point. You never know. We don't know what the future really holds. But for now, it's sad to see. And rest in peace at this point, Black Dog Cafe. But yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.